Okay, Katie, we are going to talk about really exciting things, which are mortgage rates and how they're impacting buyer demand, how they're impacting just our buyers in general, and how they're impacting our sellers. And I guess where I want to start is in like the news headlines. So Adrian, our videographer who's editing this, he sent me a couple different articles today, which is like mortgage rates are at a 3-week low. What should buyers do now? And this week or this year's housing market continues to favor sellers. But you and I both know that that might not be the truth for Portland. So I saw you post something earlier today about mortgage rates on your Instagram story. So why don't we start there? That's probably a good place to start.
Yeah, so I check the mortgage interest rates daily just so I have a pulse on what's going on. The truth is, the little kind of relaxation we've seen in rates in the last like day or so doesn't make too much of a difference on a 30-year mortgage. So we may be celebrating a little bit early, I would say.
Yeah, I'll get granular on it. We went from 7.23 to
hmm
7.18.
Yeah. So let's look at what kind of a difference that's going to make in a monthly payment for a borrower over the life of a loan. It's really not going to impact their buying power much.
No, it doesn't. And here's why I wanted to bring this up, right? Is the national headlines, the headlines we see on Facebook, the headlines we see on YouTube, they're just that. They're headlines. A lot of times they're opinion based where we're looking for the next click. But when we talk about how does this really impact a home buyer, the conversation we have a lot in our office is this house is priced at X. The annual mortgage payment is X. How many people do you know that can afford that mortgage payment? And what's haunting the Portland real estate market right now is a lot of times we can't answer that question with a lot of people. And we've seen pending sales usually at this time of year go from 3,000 pending sales to 2,000 pending sales. But I think it's important to focus on the people that can afford current mortgage interest rates in what are the opportunities we're seeing for them. So let's talk a little bit about like negotiation power or a seller that won't do something and then all of a sudden they will.
Yeah. So something I always direct buyers toward in this market, I'm like, hey, if we want to negotiate and we want to negotiate hard, let's first look at days on market. How long has this home been listed? How motivated are these sellers? And what kind of situation are they in? Are they bumpable on another property? Do they have their eyes set on another home? Are they on a confined timeline? Do they need to sell or do they just want to sell right now? All of those things play a role. So I am a little less hesitant to ask for things like rate buy downs, closing costs, things like that. Buyers can be a little bit more courageous when they're asking for seller concessions right now, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, you know, we'll talk about this when we get to like how we're seeing this impact home showings and showing demand from an article I saw today as well. But I think there's, you know, it's not quite 50% at 50-50, but let's just say 50% of homes, it's still like a, you know, maybe a multiple offer situation, low days on market, good condition. There aren't a lot of things to negotiate. Maybe you negotiate a percent off the list price, and you're just happy that you got a great house. And then there's this other 50% of homes, and let's just call them aged from a days on market situation. They've kind of aged a little bit. They've sat on the shelf a little while. We know they're going to make their way to the sale rack at some point. But we're not just waiting for them to put a sign on it that there's a 1% discount. That's where we can go in and actually negotiate. So if you are a home buyer and you're going, man, these 7% interest rates suck, I'm in agreement with you. 7% interest rates suck. For most people over the life of their mortgage, they do see that payment go down. When will there be refinance opportunities? I have no idea. When are rates going to come down? Maybe when we have a recession. I don't know. You know, our industry has been saying rates are going to be coming down for a while. I don't know when they're going to come down. I don't know if they have to. I think as long as Jerome Powell is increasing, the Fed funds rate, it seems like mortgage rates are just staying around 1.5% to 2% of that Fed's fund rate. So if he cranks them up again, we probably see mortgage rates increase a bit. So we don't know, but hey, over a course of 10 years, we talk about 10 years lock because most people stay in a home for 10 years. Will there be refinance opportunities? Well, I hope so. I believe there will be. If there are not, man, then we have a whole nother world that we're living in. So what are some other opportunities that you're seeing for buyers in the market? Let's just stay on like, what are opportunities for buyers today? We have the ability to negotiate a little bit. What's another thing you think is benefiting buyers right now because of interest rates?
I think sellers have a level of uncertainty and nervousness that buyers can really play off of. I mean, a lot of real estate is a mind game. So maybe you go to that showing and you just say, well, you know what? We're going to look at our other options. We're not going to act with any sense of kind of urgency. In our previous market, when rates were artificially low, sellers were in the driver's seat 100%. It was all you had to do was really put your house on the MLS, and multiple people were going to write offers. Now sellers are like shaking in their boots a little bit more. So buyers can use that to their advantage. Cash buyers have proven to be really benefiting from this higher rate
Yeah.
climate because they're unaffected by historically high rates.
Yeah. What I think, what I would encourage any buyers to really think about buying a house in this market, one of the biggest benefits that you have is that today in the Portland housing market, there's almost 2 properties on the market for every house that's going pending. And options are a great thing for a buyer. And I know if I'm buying a home, I remember standing in line in an open house in 2021 with one of my clients, and we stood in this line for like 20 minutes and we had 5 or 10 minutes to walk through the house, and they ended up buying that house. It was a wonderful property. The agent was great, but it was a crazy multiple offer situation. I don't yeah, I don't know if I want to stand in line to see a house, and this is going to move us into this next article that we'll talk about. But I like that I can go look at a house and I might be able to go back and look at it a second time. I might be able to go back and look at it a third time and really know that that is the right home for me. I could really like feel that home and take in that home and think about like, is this the place that I want to be? Because in the marketplace of 2020, 2021, there have been a lot of surveys that have come out that people have they've had some regret around those purchases, that they made too quick of a decision. And when you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, I mean, that is a decision that requires a lot of care, I believe. So let's go to this next article because I've seen this floating around Instagram as well. The headline of the post floating around Instagram is "Buyer traffic is stronger than normal years." The actual article itself is June 2023 showing index results. Buyer foot traffic declined slightly. So this goes back to that whole headline, and what headlines are you actually agreeing with or disagreeing with, or what's the truth and what's just clicks? If we go off this showing time report, and what showing time is a program that a lot of agents use to schedule showings, not everybody, the ratio of showings to listings is 6.81. I actually don't even know what that means. Is that like almost 7 showings to every listing? I don't know what that means. What I do know is that they show a 4% year over year decrease in showings and a 9% month over month decrease in showings while we're adding inventory to the market. Inventory being more homes are on the market today than we had a month ago. Hey, if you're a seller, let's talk about that, right? What would be your first thought on that, Katie?
Well, I'm not a patient person, but patience is key in this market. So you have fewer buyers because a lot of these people are locked in at like sub 6% rates. So why the heck are they going to move and take on a 7+% interest rate if they're comfortable with their current monthly payment? you have to wait for that buyer to come along that can afford the monthly payment that it's going to require to take on your home. So patience is a virtue and it's key in this market.
Yeah, I'm gonna use a client's name because he'll think it's funny if he sees this. My client Michael Graham, he calls me every year and he goes, David, I want to buy this house because it has a third bay in his garage, or it has a bigger backyard. He likes the street. There's always a house that he sees. He's like, all right, let's do it. We're gonna move. And this year that call came. And I'm like, dude, you don't want to do it. Your rate's going to like explode, right? Or the rate's going to explode. Your payment's going to explode. And we went through the payment and he's like, oh yeah, man, I'm going to stay here. And that's still what's best for him. What was best for him. Those convenience moves have moved out of the market, right? If I have a 3% or 4% interest rate and I just want to move because I want my yard to be 10 feet by 10 feet larger, right? And I like the fact that your fence has been replaced and mine hasn't, like I'm not making that move anymore. And we did have clients that made those moves in the past. When I look at the headline from Instagram, the buyer traffic stronger than normal years, I look at that and the first thing I think is, no, that's just second, third, and fourth showings. That's just the fact that when I'm a buyer, half the houses I can look at once. The other half I can look at 2, 3, 4, 5 times if I want, because not everything is selling quickly. And that gives the illusion, because there's more showings being scheduled, it gives the illusion that the buyer demand is really high. But if I'm a seller, one of the things I need to know about the Portland housing market right now, Portland metro area, is that values have declined about 3.5% year over year. We've had 8 consecutive months where the average sales price is less than the month before. And about 26% of the listings haven't gone pending. Now, if you live in certain suburban markets, you have still actually seen appreciation. If you're in the average sales price in almost any market, you've probably seen some appreciation. But as you get into a mortgage payment that annually costs you $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year, and now we're talking about $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 $1 million homes, those homes have become exceedingly more difficult to sell, and the market's been slower.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say they're like going back to opportunities. I had some buyers looking at those single family detached homes right around $500,000. We could not get in there. They're very strong conventional buyers, pre-approved, solid financing. We could not get our foot in the door. And so we had to kind of shift our focus to attached townhomes, condos. That may be the new starter home for buyers in this market. But you're right, we're going to see multiple offers in any market, including this one.
Yeah, look, that was the starter home for me when I bought my first home like 15 years ago. And, townhouses and condos, they are a little bit, I don't want to say disrespected. People kind of look past them and then they go to them later. To your point, an observation that we talk about in the office a lot is when you're buying a home under the average sales price in any area, so be it Tiger, Tualatin, Sherwood, Wilsonville, Lake Oswego, North Portland, Northeast Portland, Southeast Portland, doesn't matter where, whenever you're buying below the average sales price, it is the most crowded space in the market because that's where first-time home buyers are, that's where investors are, and that's where downsizers traditionally are. So that is a very difficult place to buy a house. So if you are trying to get into the market, realize the awesome benefits of home ownership, looking at townhouses, looking at condos is a really great thing to at least consider.
And I think pricing is massively important right now. I think when rates were around 3%, choosing a list price felt almost arbitrary. You could slap whatever price tag you wanted on that house and it was going to drive all the way up as a result of multiple offers. Now you want to make sure you're choosing a price that's palatable to buyers in the market, and maybe not only palatable but a little bit uncomfortable from the perspective of a seller. Like maybe if you're not a hair uncomfortable with the list price you've selected, you might be waiting a while to sell your house.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been talking in the office about like the common experience of the market or the uncommon experience of the market. And in some price points, the uncommon experience is actually selling. And those people are generally pricing uncommonly and not on the
Yep.
high side, but on the low side. They look like a deal, and then the consumer sees them as a deal, and they're the ones that are getting purchased because, amongst this, really, in certain price points, it feels like there's a sea of homes. I put a property on the market the same day another person put a property on the market. They just happened to put the exact same house across the street on the market. I think what was it, $70,000 lower than what I was priced at. It went pending a lot faster than us,
Yeah.
right? And we had to work our price down, even though we sold for more than that house sold for. It was not the best experience, and we didn't know that house was coming to the market, or we probably would have priced differently, but we have priced aggressive on the high side. They have priced aggressive on the low side. They ended up dictating the future price. So while we still sold higher than they sold for, it was a harder path. I know it wasn't as pleasant for my sellers. I know we're on good terms now because I was talking to them, but didn't always feel like that at the end of the transaction. It was harder, but the market is what the market is. So let's just do closing thoughts around mortgage rates, Katie. What would just be your closing thought? Because it's dictating a lot of what's happening today.
I'd say don't cross your fingers that rates are going to magically come down anytime soon. If a lot of people say, I don't think we're ever going to see 8%. Well, I didn't think we were going to see cargo pants again, and here we are in 2023. Like more surprising things have happened.
Hmm.
I think this is the new normal. We may see a little relaxation in rates, but like you said, we don't know when that's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and you guys, predictions are tough, right? Like we do these videos where we try to predict what's going to happen, and I'd rather come on here and say, yeah, we might see 8% interest rates than say, hey, we might see 5. When's the right time to buy a house? When the right home's available for you and you can afford it. Affordability is a problem in this market. It's why less people are buying homes. It doesn't make sense for everybody today. And by the way, that's okay. But also don't not buy a house just because rates are 7%. Home ownership, to me, if you look at like our society, it's the gift that keeps on giving. The average net worth of a homeowner is 40 times greater than that of a renter. Home ownership isn't always easy. Getting in isn't always easy. But over time, it seems that it's always worth it. So if you wanted to get in touch with me or Katie and talk about the market, you're curious about your home's value, things like that, just email us at hello@hillshirerealtygroup.com. Make sure you like and subscribe to wherever you're watching this video, and we'll see you next time.